I wake up in the hospital on Caitlyn's 16th birthday.
Oh my.
And really had no clue why I was there. And the nurse said, you had a sudden cardiac arrest on the golf course with your daughter. And she started CPR and saved her life.
Golf Smarter number 815 is brought to you by calderalab.com/golfsmarter. Golf Smarter listeners receive a 20% discount with a coupon code GolfSmarter. A father-daughter dream scenario turns into a parent's nightmare with Caitlyn and Steve Ryan.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Steve and Caitlyn.
Thank you for having us on, Fred. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I rarely get an opportunity to have two people on at the same time, especially if they're in the same room. This is really exciting. So if it sounds like a big cavernous echo room, it is. Where are you guys based?
So we're in Oldsmar, Florida, which is just in between like Clearwater and Tampa area, like right at the north end of Tampa Bay.
Okay. And I may have teased it in the opening of the show, but you guys have, well, first of all, a dream come true of a father playing golf with his daughter, which I don't have daughters, but just even playing with my son is a great thing. And so playing golf with your child is a pretty awesome thing, but you have a horrific story that we're going to get to later. But I want to share with you, because I recently got an email from a listener saying, my freshman daughter joined the golf team this year and loves it. She's picked up the game so much more quickly than I ever did. I'm going back through all the interviews of Golf Smarter to help find information for her, because it's better received and understood coming from golf professionals than it is from her dad. Do we agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, that is always the case. I've been taking lessons for a number of years, and a lot of the things that her instructor would tell her, I'm like, it's exactly what I would say. but it's better coming from somebody else, from an expert.
Absolutely. So when did you get Caitlyn started playing golf?
So really it wasn't necessarily, well, I guess back it up. We, kids were going to a school locally that had like a little auction every year, and they had this one item that was that we bid on that was a golf basket. So it had a variety of things, and one of the things was a kid's golf set, and it also included a lesson at a local golf range with one of the pros there. And so we're like, let's let Caitlyn do it. And it was a 45-minute lesson, and by the end of the lesson, John had her. I mean, it looked like a PGA level swing. It was fantastic. And she was 6 years old. Now, she didn't really continue with it, but my parents used to come down to Florida every winter, and they love golf. My dad is an avid golfer, was an avid golfer. He passed away a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So they would go out to the range, and the kids really enjoyed going with them. And it's one of those kind of things like, oh, here comes the picker. Let's see if you can hit it. And so that continued year after year. And then I think it was when Caitlyn was about 11 was when she started to really get into wanting to play golf and go to the range. And so she really started picking it up.
So mainly, I guess, when I started to take it a little more seriously, I'd always start with, oh, let's beat grandma. And once I did that, let's beat dad. And, I'd always try to outdrive them and, all those fun things. And it was just really a lot of fun to spend time with my family and also be just really competitive. So,
are you a competitive person, Caitlyn?
I very much am.
Very much. Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have two sisters.
Okay. And where do you fall in the three?
I'm the middle child.
You're the middle child. Of course you're competitive. Absolutely, you're competitive. I'm gonna beat them. Right? And do they play golf as well?
No, they never really got into it, but
because you were so much better and they didn't want to compete with you, and you were being too difficult on them, I'm sure. And so you were starting to get better? You beat grandma. How old were you when you beat dad?
I don't know. Maybe like, it was like probably 7th or 8th grade, 12 or 13, somewhere in there.
It was somewhere in there.
I was just wondering how you felt about it, because I know when I was playing basketball a lot with my sons, first time the younger one beat me, it was the last time we played together.
Well, it's like,
okay, I'm done.
But I think probably the most humbling thing was, and I'm like, what? This kid needs to be a little quieter. We're at the driving range and like, all right, and they have some like pins out there, and we're like, let's go for this one. And Caitlyn says, hey, so Dad, what are you hitting? I said, well, I'm hitting a 6-iron. You're hitting a 6. I'm hitting an 8. And so I was like, shh, we don't need to broadcast that. So all those lessons I paid for are coming back to bite me.
Yeah. Humility is really hard, but it's so necessary on a golf course because forget about other people, because golf will come and get you.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
As soon as you think you've got it under control, it's going to go, no. I'm the one in charge here. Right?
Yeah.
It sure does. So, Steve, what's your index these days?
Oh, I've only, probably in the last couple of years, I've really kind of slowed down as far as how much I've played, because my golf partner now can drive. So she leaves me in the dust, and I don't have anybody to play with that lives in the house. So I probably played it, a handful of times the last couple of years. If I get it in the 90s, I'm going to be pretty happy. So, but my putting is still pretty good. My putting has always been pretty solid. So
you're so.
Yeah. I still think I can definitely beat him in short game, but we'll have to test that out.
Yeah, I told her,
he keeps pushing back, and I was like, oh, what if we go today? He's like, So I think he's a little too scared.
And what's your index these days, Caitlyn?
I usually shoot somewhere in the 70s.
Wow. Steve, is it so much fun to watch her play?
It is, but so she doesn't really like me or my wife going to watch her play. So we don't really watch. Like we've, some of the tournaments she's been in, we'll pull up the app and just sit there and refresh and go, oh no, another bogey! Or hey, she got a bogey at that hole. But you don't know anything about the hole other than like the yardage, and you're just sitting there hitting refresh. But I think if she, so her golf team, she's a senior, so they have 2 good players. The rest of the team is, they need to work on their game a little bit, but hopefully they'll make it to states this year. And, so if they do that, I think we'll probably go and watch.
No, I think for sure.
Yeah.
So you're giving him permission. You're so sweet.
One last chance to watch.
Caitlyn, he kind of answered my question that you are on your high school team. Are you one of the 2 people he's talking about? Or are you? You're pretty good. Yeah, you're a star. And do you hope to play in college?
No, I'm pretty academically focused. So golf has been kind of one of those things where I'm really passionate about it, work hard at it, but I don't particularly plan on going anywhere with it more than just having fun and being competitive. I still plan on golfing throughout college, but just kind of on a more low-key manner.
Yeah, I always told her, like, you could play, she plays basketball as well. I said, you could play basketball or golf on one of the club teams at whatever school you go to. They have fantastic competition. So it's not like you're going to be losing anything. And so say if she went to the University of Florida, they would still play Florida State. They'd play University of Central Florida. They play a bunch of schools that are not too far away, and a lot of college scholarships for especially women's golf. You might have a couple partials and maybe 1, maybe 2 that are full scholarships. So it's and you do have to spend time. You're dedicating 20 hours a week to practice with the team. So
college sports is a completely different beast than high school sports.
Yeah, no, it's pretty neat I was up in Iowa a couple of years ago, and a friend of mine is his relatives with the women's college golf coach up there. So we got to tour the facilities and talk to her, and it was really neat.
That's awesome.
So,
awesome. And again, you kind of answered the question that I wanted to ask Caitlyn, but are there other sports that you play at school competitively for the school?
Yeah. So actually last year I started track, and this year I started cross country. So right now I'm in cross country and golf seasons. It's just kind of hectic a little bit.
At the same time.
Yeah. And then
gosh.
Golf's going to be starting up soon, and then end out the year with track. But I mean, I play golf year round, so that's kind of the main thing I do. But I just like adding in, other sports, get a run around, exert some energy, let off some steam from the school day, and I just like doing a bunch of different sort of things.
Could also be called avoiding your parents, because she doesn't come home till later.
She's a senior in high school. That's her job, Steve.
It is. I've learned that.
Come on, man. It's like, give them roots, give them wings, let them go. But what's so awesome about your story here, Caitlyn, is that you're picking lifelong sports. Between cross country and basketball, you may not get to play basketball the rest of your life, but you will be able to go for runs and play golf. It's pretty wonderful. Yeah. Pretty awesome. Hey, let's take a time out. We'll be back right after this and talk more, and we'll get to that crazy story with Steve and Caitlyn right after this. Yesterday I was on the golf course, and an old friend of mine called me out of the blue and said he had just seen the photo and write-up on me at calderalab.com/golfsmarter. But he didn't realize it was Golf Smarter. And then he admitted he didn't even realize it was me until he saw the word golf. He called out to his partner, "Oh my God, that's Fred. And he looks great." Yeah, well, that's because each night after I wash up for bed, I apply a dropper full of The Good from Caldera Lab. It's funny that I'm always the one behind the camera taking the family photos and don't really consider myself vain. I don't take a lot of pictures of myself, which is why I never really did take much care of my skin other than some aftershave and sunscreen. My guess is that most guys are like that too. But in just 3 months of applying this rich serum each night, my skin was transformed. Luckily, not my ego. So if you'd like to see the before and after photos and get your skin looking years younger, go to calderalab.com/golfsmarter and see for yourself. And while you're there, take advantage now of the 20% discount they're offering Golf Smarter listeners with the coupon code GolfSmarter. One word. Again, go to calderalab.com/golfsmarter or use Golf Smarter at checkout. That's calderalab.com/golfsmarter for 20% off. It worked for me. I'm sure your skin will look healthier too. Caitlyn, any idea of what you want to major in when you get to college?
Actually, right now I'm planning on majoring in biochem because I want to pursue a career in medicine. I'm thinking something either cardiology, electrophysiology, or orthopedic surgeon. But I plan on refining my plans for that during college.
Well, that kind of gives us a lead into where we're going with this horrific story, doesn't it? Is that what influenced? Is this incident we're about to talk about, did that influence your decisions?
Yes, definitely. It kind of sparked, a new pathway kind of opened up of my interests. I definitely hadn't thought about it as much prior to the incident. So yes.
Yeah, I would think so. And how often did you guys get to go out and play golf together when you were playing more, Steve?
I mean, it was pretty much every day we would go out to at least to the range. It was, once we were in COVID times, we would go like right after dinner. And then, but before that, it was usually like, after I finished work, we'd go out there for a little bit, maybe have a late dinner or something like that. But let's get to the range at least, or the course we'd typically go to. It's easy to do a first hole, second hole, third hole, eighth and ninth, and just walk that. And so you can be done relatively quickly. Caitlyn is a fast golfer, so it's one of those things that
Good for you.
It doesn't take long. Yeah, she puts most of the people out there to shame. If
you're going to make a lot of friends on the golf course, Caitlyn. Well, if you're good and you're quick, you're going to make a lot of friends. So who wants to tell, which one of you wants to tell this story? I mean, I'm just kind of like hovering over it like a bee over honey, but.
So I guess I can kind of start, and I'll start a little bit. I guess I'll start at the punchline kind of. So I wake up in the hospital on Caitlyn's 16th birthday.
Oh my. Oh, no.
And really had no clue why I was there. And the nurse said, you had a sudden cardiac arrest on the golf course with your daughter. And she started CPR and saved your life. And so I was absolutely floored. I was like, I can't believe that. And, thank goodness. So she learned CPR in middle school and just had enough familiarity with it to be comfortable to do it and to do it, with good compressions. So my heart was basically stopped for about 12 minutes. So, so backing up, so I had, we had been out that day. It was kind of like one of the first hot days in Florida for the year. It was mid-April, and I don't know if it got up to close to 90. And so my wife and I and my youngest were out in the convertible earlier in the day. And then I got home and I wanted to do some yard work, take care of some bushes that really need to be trimmed back. And so I took care of that. But and then I was going to make dinner. And I was going to make chicken parmesan, which is a family favorite. But you got to pound the chicken, and then you got to bread it and fry it. And then, so it's very involved. And you cut up the basil, so it just takes a long time. And I told Sharon, I said, I'm just too wiped out to do that. I'm just going to make tacos. And so this was a month into COVID, where we're trying to avoid crowds, and so we're just trying to go golfing at times when people aren't going to be there. And, but we still had plenty of daylight. So we decided we go over to the course, and, Caitlyn started working on her short game. I wasn't playing. I was just fixing ball marks and, shagging balls and bringing them to her when she was, as she was working on her short game.
Yeah. And so I was kind of working my way back. I had gotten to about 100 yards out. I hit one of my shots. It was kind of short, faded, wasn't happy with it. So I was like, all right, I'll hit one more from here before I go pick up the balls. And I set up to the ball, and I was doing my normal pre-shot routine. I looked at my target, and I kind of just subconsciously noticed something was different. So I kind of stepped back, and I realized that my dad was lying face down on the putting green. And obviously that's not normal. So I went to go check on him. And once I got up to the green, I knew something was wrong. I ran up to him and checked for his pulse. Upon finding none, I called 911 and started CPR. And actually before that, I also called my mom too, who's a nurse, just kind of real quick, but it was good because she was right in the neighborhood about 5 minutes away. And so she was able to get there pretty quick. So
do you remember what you said to your mom?
I honestly don't remember.
I can't imagine you would. I mean, the amount of detail that you do remember is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, it was definitely a blur, and it was probably a very frantic voice of me saying, you need to come quick, and something's wrong with Dad. So anyway, she got there shortly after, and she was able to take over CPR before EMS got there. But really, it was definitely very scary for me, seeing my dad, having a sudden cardiac arrest like that. But it really made me realize how thankful I am for having been able to learn CPR in middle school, because there are a lot of kids who don't know how to do it. And
there's a lot of adults that don't know how to do it.
That's right. True too. And it's a simple skill that doesn't take long to learn. And even the basic hands-only CPR I learned on my dog stuffed animal in middle school, that gave me enough confidence to perform CPR on my dad, and, it worked out. So even just the basic training would just be great if everyone could learn. So I'm just thankful that I got that opportunity at such a young age.
Oh, yeah. And we all are. Steve, I'm just curious about your physical condition and your history before this event.
Yeah, so history-wise, it's about 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy. And so my heart ejection fraction was kind of moderately on the heart failure side. So it was, my ejection fraction is about 45, where you really...
I'm sorry, but I don't know what any of that means.
Okay, so basically it's the amount, yeah, I never did either. So it's basically the amount of blood your heart squeezes out of the heart each time. So you want to be, I think it's like in the 55 to 70 range is normal. So I was below that. So I wasn't pumping as much blood out as need be. Now, granted, it wasn't as bad as, some people can have, where it's down to like 15 or 10%. And those people are really in severe shape. But so I could still do the normal things, but I was on some blood pressure medicine to kind of help my heart squeeze a little better. And, I was going to the gym and exercising and trying to do things to help get that ejection fraction up, to the normal range. Never quite made it there. But that is one of the things that can trigger sudden cardiac arrest is having a low EF like that, the ejection fraction. So, but yeah,
did you have symptoms? What was it that allowed you to discover that you had that?
So I was at my oldest daughter was in Girl Scouts, and they were doing a sailing, outing. So they were learning how to sail in these little sailboats. And so we're at this sailing center in Clearwater, and we're just standing around. We're there for a few hours, and I felt a little sharp, pain in my chest occasionally. And so I told my wife about it once we got home, and of course she was angry that I didn't tell her while we were there. But I'm not gonna rock the boat. So I'm like, it's nothing.
Well, she's a nurse.
Yeah, she's
right. So you don't want to tell her.
Yeah, she was a cardiac nurse. So it's
it's not something you want to share. Yeah. So, no, I'm a big boy. I'm good.
Yeah. So needless to say, the next week, I think it was shortly thereafter, I was in the cardiologist's office. He listened to my heart and he goes, well, I hear like a mitral valve prolapse. He goes, it's a slight one. Let's just do a stress echo and just check you out and just see what we find and see if there's anything else going on. And so when I did that, they found that, basically I don't know if you've ever done one of those, Fred, a stress echo. So they're not fun. So basically you get on the treadmill and they just, start you flat and they raise it up.
Of course I have. Yeah.
Until you get to like 15%. And basically want to get you to a target heart rate, which mine was, 175, 180, something like that. And then they have you basically lay down and they check out the heart. Well, when I laid down, I went into runs of VTech, which is basically the heart's not doing what it should be doing. And the nurse was like, do you feel okay? And I was like, I feel kind of winded. And so anyway, they marched me into the back to see the cardiologist, and he said, I think we're going to do a cardiac cath and just check out the heart. So that's when they did that, they found the ejection fraction. At that point, it was like between 40 and 45, and it got me down the road of being on these, blood pressure therapeutics to help so the heart would squeeze better, and so that's how it all started. 8-9 years ago.
Wow.
But with that, they said, the mitral valve prolapse, that's nothing, you can live with that your whole life. It's nothing severe as far as what you have. So that's not an issue. But, you want to keep, basic control of your diet, make sure you don't have a lot of sodium, eat healthy essentially. Because you're still concerned with the runs of VTech after, in that resting period. But then also be on those therapeutics to help the blood get out of the heart so it squeezes better. So, but, everything seemed like it was on cruise control. It's doing well. My the last echo I had, which is how they can measure the ejection fraction, was about 50. So I'm like, man, I'm almost there. I'm almost to 55. But that didn't make a difference on April 19th. So.
I need a break. We'll be back right after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, episode 131 is part one of a fascinatingly simple and humorous approach to better putting. It's called banana putting, and our guest is Paul Hobart. Unfortunately, the website is no longer active, but the book is still available on Amazon. It's been part of my pre-shot putting routine ever since I was introduced to it back in 2010, and hopefully you'll find it helpful too.
I think what people need to do is they need to forget about technique, and they need to forget about having a perfect putter and a perfect putting stroke and all those things, because there's tons of people in the world that have all that stuff, and they're lousy putters still. I mean, I watch guys and ladies on TV that we see every week that have access to the best resources, and they still miss putts. So I'm a big advocate of let's figure out how the ball's going to go in, and then let's kind of paint a picture of that. And then let's set up and let's go ahead and roll the ball on that line and stick with that. Let's not change our mind and come up with some crazy idea standing over the ball that we need to change this or change that or swing the putter a certain way. Let's figure out how to get from point A to point B and then set up and go ahead and do that.
That's episode 131, featuring part one with author Paul Hobart on Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday. Golf Smarter Mulligans are the earlier episodes of Golf Smarter that are no longer available on any podcast app, but like this one, still have really helpful advice for golfers of all skill levels. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are available from where you're listening to this podcast right now. That's 2 episodes of Golf Smarter each week. Please write a review, subscribe, and follow both of our golf podcasts so that you can download or stream the brand new episode when it becomes available on your favorite listening device. I'm assuming what you just let us know, that April 19th is when this major event happened. How old were you when this happened?
I was 49.
Oh, man. So, it's interesting because I'm sure a lot of people, if they're still listening, they're like, where's the golf instruction, man? I'm sure they're like, yeah, it's not going to happen to me. I'm fine. I'm in my 30s. I'm in my 40s. I'm good. And I'm 66, and, I swim, and the tests that I've had, my heart's okay. Did your family have a history of heart problems?
No
family history of this.
No.
And how often did you have to take those echo tests?
So like after I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, it was an annual thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it a little more frequently right now.
Sure.
I
would hope so.
Out from the sudden cardiac arrest, but it's something that happens a lot more than you think, Fred. So it's the third leading cause of death in the U.S.
SCA is?
Yep. Most
sudden
people
cardiac arrest?
Yep. And so 1,000 people per day experience that outside of a hospital setting. And only 1 in 10 of those people survive.
Oh,
so it's some pretty serious numbers.
Yeah.
I saw an article about there was a caddy on the Latin American PGA that basically died on the course. There wasn't a lot.
Recently.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of detail about it, but I know that they basically said
about this too.
EMS arrived and they started CPR. So starting CPR means that heart's not pumping blood, so they need to do CPR. So it's I don't know what the cause of death was, but it's very possible it could be sudden cardiac arrest. But it does happen a lot.
So one of the things that in the notes that I've received from the people that introduced us is that you didn't have a heart attack. SCA, sudden cardiac arrest, is different than having a heart attack.
It is. And
what is the difference? Do you know? Can you explain it?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people confuse the two. So if you kind of think of your heart it's got two systems in it, similar to your house. Your house has a plumbing system, it has an electrical system. Okay. So if you have, say, a blockage in your plumbing system leading to your heart, you're going to have damage to the heart. The heart doesn't have the nutrients it needs, so it's going to have damage. That's a heart attack. So a sudden cardiac arrest is an issue with the electrical system. And basically it's gone haywire, and mine just basically went into a fast heartbeat and then shut down. So that's the difference that's the easy way to kind of understand the difference between the two. So they're very drastically different. So if you have a sudden cardiac arrest, you're basically going to go unconscious. And so you're completely relying upon somebody else to save you. So if people just sit around and go, well, I'm just going to call EMS, and when they arrive, they'll take care of them. Well, that's usually too late, because it's an immediate emergency, because there's no blood flow to the brain or any of the organs.
And this can happen to anybody. It's not like you you necessarily have any history in your family or yourself of having heart issues. This could just happen to anybody.
It could. And quite frankly, if my wife was not a cardiac nurse, and I may have never gone to the cardiologist to get this checked out. I may have just gone, it's just a little chest pain, and it's probably something I ate or something like that.
Yeah, I'll take some Tums. I'll be good.
Right, exactly. So it's very possible I would have never been diagnosed with this. It's not like a severe case of cardiomyopathy, and my ejection fraction is just below where really, the normal range. So it's not something severe. So I certainly could have gone under the radar, and this could have happened, and that would have been completely out of the blue. I, would have had no cardiac issues, but I did have this cardiac issue, and I knew about it. But just a lot of people have cardiac issues, and they don't know about them.
Sure. So, I once heard a statistic, and I don't know how true this is, but it's always kind of stuck in my mind, that golf has the highest rate of death of any participatory sport, for amateur participatory sport, and that's because of heart failure and lightning strikes. And you're in Florida.
I don't doubt it. Because if you do have a cardiac event, and say you're way out on the course someplace, EMS has to find you. And then, and additionally, if you're with three other guys and like, I don't know what to do, we'll just call, and they might just stand around, so that's why it's really,
dude, get up. What are you doing? Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really imperative to know those, those signs of sudden cardiac arrest, which could be dizziness, could be someone complaining of a really fast heartbeat. But then if they lose consciousness, it's check for a pulse, get on 911. And, if there's no pulse, they're going to have you do CPR and look for an AED. Now, I think most golf courses have them, but if you're way out on the golf course, that isn't getting to you anytime soon.
Yeah. And I play golf courses that there's no phone signal. Right, which is even I don't know if I'm ever going to play those courses again now.
Well, just make sure you bring somebody with you who has a satellite phone, and you should be okay.
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, that's an easy one. So, Caitlyn, you obviously recognized when you saw something was amiss, and you ran over and you saw your dad face down. He wasn't looking for golf balls in the hole. Is it because of your mother and kind of like what you've learned just by being around her that you knew what to do? Because, I mean, what were you, 14, 15 at the time this happened?
Yeah, I was 15. I mean, once again, learning CPR in middle school kind of helped me be able to jump into action. And then,
but you had the guts, you had the wherewithal and the guts to do. A lot of people, just because they learned it doesn't mean they're going to go, oh, I better step up.
No, and that's actually one of the things
you out.
In the community that I aim to, target, because a lot of people, even people who know CPR, might be too scared to do it, in public, especially on a stranger. And that's why, they're really promoting, you can do hands-only CPR and save lives. And, that can save so many more people if you just have the courage and the confidence to make an attempt at it.
Well, and how do you look back on that now as far as, I'm going to say it, you're a hero, right? I mean, you saved your father's life. I guess that's something, yeah, and that's something that's going to make you, it obviously is going to dictate where you go in your career, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful for how it all turned out, and that my dad's still here, and he's the same dad he was before. So it's really just quite a miracle. And, as a result of it, I want to give back to the community and really inform others. Because I think for me, after he had the sudden cardiac arrest, my mom would send us some statistics and articles in our family group chat. And, I've never realized how prominent a cause of death sudden cardiac arrest was. And, like my dad said earlier, it's the third leading cause of death, right?
Yep.
And I mean, that was just shocking. I had never thought about that. Like when I learned CPR in middle school, I never thought about having to use it. It was just kind of like, if you get the awareness out there, more people will be like, hey, maybe I should learn CPR. And, even if we get one person who learns CPR who ends up using it to save another life, that just makes, that would be amazing. So.
And Steve, you're blessed to have 3 daughters, but man, are you blessed?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's an incredible story. I really want, people who are listening to this right now, don't think it can't happen to you. Don't dismiss this as like, wow, that's a real powerful story for those people, because it could happen to any of us. Where do you have any ideas of where people can go to do some research and learn more about SCA and what can be done if, God forbid, you're in a situation that this would happen to you or somebody you're with?
Yeah, so I encourage them to go to medtronic.com/sudden cardiac arrest, which is all one word. And there's some
Medtronic is MED as in David, TRONIC.
Yep.
.com/sudden cardiac arrest.
Yep.
One word. Okay.
Yep. And that has a lot of good information on heart rhythm disorders, sudden cardiac arrest. And so I actually have one of the things I left the hospital with was an ICD, which is an implantable defibrillator. And, 2 days after I came out of the medically induced coma, my wife and I and the cardiologist discussed getting one because he said, you'd be a great candidate for it. And basically what this thing does, it's a small device that fits underneath my collarbone, just underneath the skin. And there's a lead that runs it to my heart. And so it's constantly monitoring my heart rhythm. So if I go into a dangerous, fast rhythm again, it will basically send a little electrical impulse and get the heart back on track. So had I had one when Caitlyn and I were at the golf course, I would have had a little bit of a jolt there, and my heart would have got back on track. We wouldn't even be having this conversation, right? But nobody has one of these things put in just out of the blue. So I had one put in because I have now the history of a sudden cardiac arrest, and so if this ever happens again, I'm protected. So it's a safety net for me. So I don't have to worry about this occurring again. So it's a best piece of technology I have in the house. So
yeah, right. And I don't know if I missed this earlier, but you just said that you were in a medically induced coma for 48 hours?
For 3 days.
3 days, 72 hours.
Yep. So I was, so basically they took me to the hospital. Basically everything what could have gone right did. They lowered my temperature for about 24 hours, had me on a ventilator, pronated for I don't know how long that was. And then after 3 days, they brought me back out of the medically induced coma. And so for the family, that was probably very nerve-wracking. Well, I know it was because they said it was very nerve-wracking because they didn't know, hey, I was alive, but, I could come out in a vegetative state.
Sure.
You don't know. You just don't know what the blood flow, what kind of oxygen you got to the brain and all that, and what kind of issues you could have after that. So, so we're 1 out of 10 survive. A lot of those 1 out of 10 still have major issues after they get out of it. I'm just as fortunate as I can get because, I basically came out unscathed. So,
yeah. Caitlyn, do you remember those 3 days that he was in the coma?
I mean, yeah, definitely the first night was by far the scariest, because my mom had gone to the hospital and COVID, they didn't let her go in the ambulance and they weren't letting her go back to see him. So she was, it was kind of hard to get the information as quick as possible. When she came home that night, basically we got the news that he was in a medically induced coma and had this cooling blanket thing. I don't really know the medical terminology of it, but anyway, so he was in good hands for now. So I guess that was good. He made it to the hospital. So it's kind of like that was the first hurdle. But yes, definitely those next 3 days were nerve-wracking, and we just really kept close as a family, and we're just hoping and praying for the best. And we're
so lucky that he came through it the way he did, because the amount of you could have been beating yourself up that there was, what else could I have done? What else could I have done? But you don't have to live with that. I mean, this really is, Steve, you'll understand, and someday you too will, Caitlyn, but this really is the worst nightmare for any parent that, you expect at some point, you expect your parents to be gone. You don't want to lose your children, but you expect your parents, but you don't want to do it when you're young. And, and for even a parent to think about not being with their kid is just a total nightmare. Yeah.
No, there's so many things that have gone through my mind that, I almost missed, finding out where this kid's going to go to college and what she's going to do, all three of them, as far as what they're
right. And who they're going to be spending the rest of their lives with. You want to be there for that. Right.
Yeah, we've just kind of, reached a certain point of the race here, and, we haven't gone around the curve to see what's around the corner yet. So it's a lot more to live for.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man. Well, I'm really honored to get to meet you two. Caitlyn, just sign me up for your fan club. You are an absolute hero. I admire your poise so much, because I've had a situation once where a friend was choking on something, and everyone was staring at him at the table, and I jumped up and I figured out how to do something, but the meat popped out of his mouth, and he was fine the rest of the night, but I was shaking for the rest of the night.
Yeah. Thank goodness you did that.
Yeah. Right. Because other people were running around in circles, and some were like calling 911, and I'm like, just get it to help them. So, So even briefly, I have a sense of that fear and panic, but also the fact that you stepped up and took care of business.
Well,
that's really admirable.
Isn't that some of the lessons that golf teaches you? You're on the first tee, and there's a bunch of people there watching you. You got to put your fear aside and focus on what needs to be done, right? So it's golf.
It's about being in. It's always about being in the moment and staying in the moment and not worrying about what's next.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. We'll go back to golf with that. No problem, Coach. Okay. It was great to talk to you again, everyone. Please take a visit, medtronic.com/sudden cardiac arrest. And remember this story. Hopefully it doesn't haunt you, but it's not something you ever want to have to experience for yourself. Steve, Caitlyn, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. It was great talking to you.
So October is Sudden Cardiac Awareness Month, and our superstar Caitlyn created a charity golf tournament back in June of this year in Florida and raised more than $31,000 to benefit the American Heart Association and the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Foundation. It was more than just a fundraiser because over 80 golfers that day also learned how to do CPR. Now, I've told my golf buddies about this interview, and I said that I don't know if I've ever want to play a golf course again that doesn't have a strong cell signal, fearing that something could happen to one of us. Well, Neil suggested that we all just get CPR training, and he's right. We should all have CPR training. If you're in Florida and are interested in playing in 2022's charity event, the date hasn't been confirmed yet, but you can keep in touch with them on their Facebook page at The Chip In for SCA. I thank Steve and Caitlyn again for sharing their incredibly moving story. So much to fill you in on. You know, you may have heard me say that I was going on vacation, so the last few episodes were produced weeks ago. Anyway, I was in Loreto, Mexico, and I got to play TPC Danzante Bay twice while I was there. The course has been awarded Mexico's Best Golf Course of 2019 as part of the annual World Golf Awards. As my wife and I are timeshare owners at the Villa del Palmar at the islands of Loreto, I've now played that course 4 times, and I really love it. It's great for scoring. I mean, well, listen, I remember years ago asking a golf course architect, what's the difference when you're designing a resort course, a muni course, and a private course? And he said, it's just the width of the fairways. Well, that's the real bonus at TPC Danzante Bay because the fairways are wide. And since it's surrounded by desert, the edges of the fairways have very, very thick and kind of sticky grass, so you rarely lose a ball. But the signature hole is number 17, a par 3 that may be even more spectacular than number 7 at Pebble Beach. I know that could be sacrilegious to say, but when you come over the hill to get your first glimpse of this hole overlooking the Sea of Cortez, 150 feet above the water, hitting from one cliff onto another, it literally can take your breath away. I actually created a short video of my friend Elliot and I, we went with another couple, when we played number 17 the second time. And you can find it on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Golf Smarter. And I'll also put it on today's blog post. Check it out. Now, the good news is I birdied the hole. The bad news is I was not able to secure an interview with anyone from the course this time around, but hopefully someday we'll get to talk to someone there and get more information on this great course, TPC Danzante Bay. And you can imagine being a TPC course, it is a world-class golf course. Lastly, I did get the new Squares golf shoes, and I like them a lot. Actually, I like them more than the first version. So I wore them twice now, and unfortunately I didn't break them in enough before walking the 8 miles of Foxtail North, and my feet really hurt afterwards. But I wore them again yesterday and had much better results and no pain. So if my conversation with Bob Winskowitz intrigued you at all, then I don't think you'll be disappointed. Check these out, Squares shoes at squaresgolf.com. Golf Smarter is your podcast for Caddy, and like caddies, we graciously accept any and all tips for services provided. And I just want to give a shout out to Golf Smarter listener June Gaston, who not only won a high heat fairway wood a couple of years ago on Golf Smarter, but she left an incredibly generous tip this past week. Thank you, June. Our tip jar is now open. Just click on donate at golfsmarter.com.